The road again. Hello, Jordan, Chariton, live, Status Coup. Driving in America, in the United Corporations of America. It is, what's today? Sunday, August the 4th, 2024. We're en route to Michigan. We started driving yesterday. And, what was that, 6 hours yesterday we drove?
Yeah, 6 or 7.
We got through about 2.5 Third Eye Blind CDs. In one case, it was really a biblical experience. Jamming to Third Eye Blind, we started at the second CD, 1999, and then worked our way up. For those of you that don't know, Third Eye Blind is my favorite band of all time, and I'm not ashamed to say so. But quite a lot going on. Right now we're headed to Dearborn, Michigan, which is the largest population of Arab Americans in America, and obviously, politically speaking, has been a focus this year, as unfortunately a lot of those folks in Dearborn have lost a lot of family in Gaza during the ongoing Israeli genocide of Gaza. So we are going to speak with folks there, share their stories, which I'm sure are really troubling, and also, kind of get a feel for them. Obviously, there was a major movement during the Michigan primary, which spread to other states, called Uncommitted, where over 100,000 Michiganders voted uncommitted to Joe Biden. So we want to know, are they any more committed now that the coronation for Vice President Harris is complete? So we will get a feel on the ground from folks whether more Arab Americans are going to vote for Kamala Harris, because frankly, Dearborn and I believe Flint, actually, and I'll tell you why later, I think could make the difference if Vice President Harris wins Michigan. And for those paying attention, most experts think that for Harris to win and beat Trump, she needs to win Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. So if she loses Michigan, it'll be tough for her to win. So we'll talk about that. Also, my book is out in 2 days, so that's the main reason we're on the road. We the Poisoned, which John, who's the slowest fucking reader on planet Earth, what are you on, chapter
5?
Chapter 5. So we'll get his thoughts on the book. I will be doing book events in Flint and then in Cleveland. I'm also going to be doing interviews with a couple outlets that are interviewing me. So I'm excited about that. So if you're in Flint on Tuesday, come on out to Comma Bookstore in Flint, 7 o'clock Eastern. I'll be doing a book event there, being interviewed by Kayla Rubel, who's an independent journalist. And then on Wednesday, I'll be in Cleveland. Happy to say that I will be interviewed by Nina Turner at Loganberry Bookstores. So we'll have all that information on Twitter and on our Substack and all that. So if you're in driving distance to Flint on Tuesday, I hope you could make it, 7 o'clock Eastern. And if you're in driving distance to Cleveland on Wednesday, hope you could make it 6:30 Eastern at Loganberry Bookstore. And it sounds like Harris is going to pick her vice president by the time my book comes out Tuesday. I could play it up and pretend that it matters, but I don't really think it does matter. I think it's going to either be Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, or I think there's a chance it could be Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky. But my gut is it's going to be Josh Shapiro, because he, contrary to somewhat some progressives are saying, Jank says he's the progressive choice. I don't know how progressive a guy is who is pushing for corporate tax cuts in his state and seems to be super duper duper pro-Israel, who compared pro-Palestinian campus protesters to the KKK. I don't know how progressive that guy sounds. But I don't really think it matters, because bottom line, vice presidents generally don't matter that much unless the president is super old. And from the looks of it, Kamala Harris is not exactly shifting left. It was reported this morning that her political director and like top aides for her campaign are having a Zoom call titled Business Leaders for Kamala Harris with none other than Reid Hoffman. Reid Hoffman is the co-founder of LinkedIn, who infamously, after giving her, I believe it was $10 million, immediately called for her to fire Lina Khan, the head of the Federal Trade Commission, who business leaders don't like because she's one of the only appointees in Biden's administration that is going after big corporations for illegal monopolies, what should be illegal monopolies, and trying to stop big corporations from merging together, trying to go after illegal price fixing, among others. So after this billionaire gave $10 million to Kamala Harris, there was a big outcry because he then called for her to fire Lina Khan. This led to even Jake Tapper on CNN questioning Reid Hoffman like, hey, dude, kind of comes off like a conflict of interest that you gave $10 million and then are calling for her to fire Lina Khan. Reid Hoffman then gave a birds and the bees answer how, oh no, that was he was wearing his expert hat when he said that, not his donor hat. I did a video on that because it was completely laughable. But anyway, it seems that, she's doing Zoom meetings, or her campaign is doing Zoom meetings with the billionaire who gave her $10 million and wants her to fire the head of the FTC. So I don't think Harris is necessarily moving left, nor has she, as far as I know, she's now been running for 2 weeks. I put running in air quotes because she hasn't had any competition. The Democratic Party just cleared the field for her and blessed her as the nominee. As far as I can tell, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone watching, she hasn't actually proposed anything. I haven't heard her propose anything on a minimum wage or raising the minimum wage and to what amount she would try to raise it. I haven't heard her propose anything on health care. And I'm not saying by her proposing anything that necessarily means you should trust it. I mean, Biden proposed the $15 minimum wage. Biden proposed the public option. Biden proposed that I'd stop drilling on public lands. Biden proposed $2,000 checks. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And he abandoned those quickly. So just because a politician proposes something doesn't mean it's going to happen. But at least fake it. At least pretend you're going to do something. So far, her proposals have been freedom. She did the ad borrowing Beyonce's Freedom song. But she hasn't proposed anything economically that I could see. In fairness, she's only been running for 2 weeks, so maybe she's going to come out with some specific proposals. But so far, kind of has 2016 vibes, where Hillary Clinton basically ran that Trump's the Antichrist, vote for me, put out some buzz phrases like stronger together. We'll see. Harris right now is staffing her campaign with a lot of Obama people. It was recently announced that David Plouffe, who was Obama's campaign manager in 2008, and was really credited with helping Obama get elected, that he's been named a senior advisor. So maybe she's bringing people on that know what they're doing. But as far as I can tell, she's running Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign until further notice. So with that, we just decided to go live on our drive to Dearborn. I'm really excited, it's been needless to say, it's been a up and down decade on the road. I started on the road in 2016, so that's about 8 years ago. There's been a lot of great moments. There's been a lot of down moments. There's been a lot of important stories we've covered. But for me personally, I truly, based on my experience with reporting on Flint, I really never believed that I would get a book out there, because it's been nothing but obstacles to get the truth out there on Flint, particularly from editors at major outlets who didn't want to touch it, who kept turning me down. I had several outlets. Maybe I could share more of this at my book events, but I had several outlets sign on to do important stories on Flint, including Newsweek, who then killed the story the week it was supposed to come out, with very suspect reasons, shall we say. Almost felt like, maybe somebody got to them and made them kill the story. I had many outlets express interest in doing major Flint stories, including the Detroit Free Press, and then 4 days later tell me, oh, we don't have the resources. So I never really believed that I'd get this story out there. And I basically was pitching publishers for 6 months once I was finished writing, and I was getting nowhere. So I just thought, like, all right, I'll have to like self-publish this like a diary or something. So personally, it's really exciting, you know, when you've worked on something and you've been passionate about something for so long, that it's actually like concrete. You know, there's a book, there's a cover, it's going to be in stores, it's going to be on audio if you prefer to listen to books on audio. There will be an audio version. So at least, you know, if I do nothing else in life, at least I could say, you know, I made a great daughter, hopefully raised her to be a good woman, and, you know, gave it my all and got the truth out about, to me, the worst government cover-up that I'm aware of this century. And I just want to be clear, I'm not done yet. I'm hoping, if there is a God, that this book angers enough people to take action. And I'm hoping, you know, I'm always going to continue digging on Flint and trying to get the truth out as we speak. And I'll tell you more. I'll say more about this at the book event Tuesday. And by the way, I should have said we'll be live streaming the book event Tuesday. So for those of you who don't live in Michigan, it'll be live on our channel. But as we speak, the Attorney General of Michigan is hiding documents from yours truly. She will not release certain documents that happen to expose the financial fraud and the financial scheme that led to the poisoning of Flint, Michigan. Why won't she release those documents? So I'll have more on that on Tuesday at the book event. But from there, I just figured we'd go live, maybe take some questions, super chats if available. We could talk about the vice presidential pick. We could talk about Flint. Talk about anything you want. And if you can, please, this on-the-ground reporting, because we're not just on the road for the book. We're going to be doing reporting in Dearborn. We're also going to be going back to East Palestine on Thursday. We're going to try to do like a live mini town hall with as many residents as possible. So all of this costs money, you know, the driving, the gas, the hotels, the food, paying John, all of it. Broadcasting, you know, we pay for the live view. So please support us. If you're already a member, if you're already a Status Coup member, you could donate to support this trip. That's statuscoup.com/donate. Or the most important way of supporting us, join us as a member for as low as 16 cents a day. That's $5 a month equals 16 cents a day. That's statuscoup.com/join. How are the comments? How are the super chats?
We got a super chat question here. Might the uncommitted have influence on Kamala?
Mike says the uncommitted have influence on Kamala.
Like it was Das Bosch Fleisch.
Das Bosch Fleisch. The uncommitted have influence on Kamala. Das Bosch Fleisch, I hate to disagree with you, but I disagree with you. And I'll tell you why. I believe that both Joe Biden and now Kamala Harris are being told by the brainiac consultants in the Democratic Party that make a lot of money, and it's all a racket. The Democratic Party have a revolving door of consultants and advisors, and they make a shit ton of money whether you win or lose. Actually, sometimes they make more money if you lose. And they, I believe, have been advising Biden and now Harris that there are more pro-Israel Jews in America than there are pro-Palestinian Arabs in Dearborn, or pro-Palestinian or anti-Zionist young people. And we can win, we meaning they're telling her we could win even if we lose Arab Americans in Dearborn, even if we lose young people, because we'll get, older voters, and Biden was doing particularly well with voters over 65, who happen to be the most consistent, reliable voters in every election. Presidential, Senate, Congress, fucking PTA. I believe that they're saying we could afford to lose Arab Americans, younger voters, but we cannot afford to piss off older voters that are pro-Israel, who view any protest, any criticism of Israel as anti-Semitic, which obviously it isn't. I believe that they wrongly think they could pick up moderate Republicans, anti-Trump Republicans, to make up for losing those younger voters. I think that's wrong. I think advising Kamala Harris are basically going to try and tell her to straddle the line, sound more sympathetic towards the Palestinians without actually promising a policy change, and just bank on, celebrities endorsing you, Obama rallying for you, Beyonce rallying for you, because that's going to happen. Mark my words. Remember Hillary, on the eve of her election. Mark my words. Remember Hillary, on the eve of her election. I believe it was who's that musician, the female musician? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Katy Perry, celebrities, and Obama, and ads that make you feel good about freedom are going to be enough. And Trump continuing to just say overtly racist things. But remember, Trump said horribly racist in 2016, and there was a tape that came out where he basically admitted, yeah, I grab women by the without their permission. He called John McCain like a wimp, and he's not a hero after he got caught, and he still won. So, and in a lot of cases, Trump being overtly racist helps him, because it brings out more of these white working class voters. So to answer you, Dashboard Slice, I don't think Kamala Harris. Maybe deep down she is more a massive platform who told me, and I quote, "I'm very committed to not having guests, but good luck." Did you read that?
Yep, I saw that.
What'd you think of that message?
That's fucked up.
Should I say who it was?
Sure, why not?
But if I say it now, I want to build up the the suspense. I mean, this was a big ass guy. Well, not big ass, well, maybe, but he just said, "Yeah, I'm very committed to not having guests." Another person told me, "Yeah, doing interviews hurts me in the algorithm." So I told the guy who said, "I'm very committed to not having guests," well, maybe you can make an exception for the biggest government cover-up of the 21st century. Maybe that, could fit into your narcissism. So we're going to name names. There's others too, but we're going to name names. I even said to people, all right, you don't want to have me on. Can you at least cover it? Right. I'll send you some graphics with some of the most, the biggest bombshells from the book. No response. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Their algorithm and audience.
Yep. So, anyway.
We got Truth Bearer, $5. Do you think the ambitious Democrats who want to run in 2028 may actually want Kamala to lose, and that it hurts her chances for a strong VP candidate?
It's funny you say that, and thank you for the super chat, because I was saying, who did I say to some? I said to someone last night in Michigan, Whitmer, she's rallying for Kamala with fingers, what do they say? Fingers crossed behind her back? Yeah. Whitmer 100% wants Harris to lose. 100%. Because from Whitmer's perspective, you basically have a very short window as a politician to be considered as a president, particularly if you're a governor. So Whitmer's window was kind of like now or 2028. But if Harris wins the presidency, you have to imagine the first woman president, obviously the first black woman, but the first woman, period. Unless she's just absolutely horrendous, which is a possibility, you have to imagine she'd be reelected in 2028. So you're talking 8 years of Kamala Harris by, what is that? She'd become president in 2025. So by 2032 or whatever it is, nobody's going to remember who the hell Gretchen Whitmer is. She's not going to, her window is closed. And she's term limited as governor, so this is her last term. And by the way, Miss Whitmer, she'll be exposed in my book too. So, and by the way, I gave you an opportunity, Governor Whitmer. I reached out to your office many times for comment. They never responded. So she's going to get a little of it in my book too. But yeah, no. Now you could say, Jordan, you're being too cynical. That's nefarious. Of course, Whitmer cares more about democracy. Of course she wants Harris to win. That's hilarious. So yeah, I don't think Whitmer or any of these vice presidential people, Newsom, same thing. If Newsom, what's better for Gavin Newsom? Because there is very few politicians that care about what's better for the country over themselves. So what's better for Gavin Newsom? Kamala Harris goes down in flames. You get Trump back there. And then we need somebody to take out Trump. We need somebody to lead the resistance. Well, here's the good-looking younger governor of California. He could run in 4 years. So I think most of these governors that were considered, if Biden dropped out, would have potentially been the Democratic nominee, but they basically had to support Kamala because Biden endorsed her. I think most of them, if you put them in a lie detector, I think they'd fail. Actually, most of them are sociopaths, so they're pretty good at lying while it wouldn't be detected on a lie detector. But I think some of them would fail if you actually ask them the truth, do they want Harris to win? So, what else?
Tony wants to know if members could get a video of Jordan jamming to Third Eye Blind.
This video of me jamming to Third Eye Blind is very dangerous. I cannot fully disclose why, but let's just say I was very animated. I might have had some medicinal support. I might have taken some medicine that got me a little animated. But I think, you know what, Tony? Let's say on this trip, if we get like 75 to 100 new paying members, we will release not just this video of me jamming high. I was high. But we'll release some other things that are pretty biblical, because John's taken video of me on the road.
Oh, yeah.
And
some fun in Cleveland.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of tape on me that I don't find incriminating. But let's just say when I've had some medicinal support, I could get pretty animated. So, yes. Yes. What else?
That's all we got for now.
That's all we got for now? Unbelievable.
Tell people to,
Yeah, smash the like button, share this live stream.
some more questions.
We'd love more questions, comments, concerns. Tony's actually read the book, so he could put in the chat what he thought of it. From folks that other folks that I know that have read the book have told me that they really liked it, that they honestly couldn't believe that the people who did this are not in prison. They have significant questions about the current Attorney General of Michigan, because basically I laid out the whole crime in very black and white, detailed timeline. And you'd have to believe that a prosecutor right out of law school could have convicted these people slam dunk. So I think this book is going to open up a lot of questions on how these people are still free. And maybe there were efforts to bury this whole thing. And I'm hoping that this book will also get more attention on the other Flints. Because not just Flint. Obviously what's going on in East Palestine, Ohio, which we've covered. Kalamazoo, North Carolina, East Chicago, Indiana. Florida's got a lot of water problems. Obviously the fracking and the mining on native reservations. There's so many areas that have not got the national or even local attention that Flint got. So,
Rubina wants to know, what do you think about Michelle Obama running for president?
What do I think of Michelle Obama running for president? I mean, I think it would be a very exciting empty vessel. By reports, Michelle Obama has been clear she doesn't want to run for anything and she hates politics. I assume that's true. I think it would 100% excite the same base of voters that voted for Obama. I think Michelle Obama, there's no policy really behind her. There's nothing to go after her on policy-wise because it was her husband who was president. But I think it would basically be more of what we've seen, which is just a total identity campaign of excitement and, phrases like when they go low, we go high. But she's not going to propose Medicare for all. She ain't going to end the wars. She ain't going to propose cutting the military budget. She's not going to propose a jobs guarantee. So I think what you get, whether it's Michelle Obama, Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, basically you're getting the corporate state and a nicer sounding fascism, a less offensive sounding fascism. And why, honestly, I think if they actually ran a working class progressive, I think they'd wipe the floor with Trump. I really do. And it's not just what I think. The data going back to 2016 shows that Bernie would have crushed Trump. Bernie was beating Trump in polls much more than Hillary Clinton. And I don't buy, same thing with Biden. Bernie was beating Trump by much higher levels than Biden was. And I don't buy the whole, but that was before, the Republicans would attack him. What are you going to attack him with? That he honeymooned in Russia? That he's a communist? That he said somewhat nice things about Fidel Castro? Okay. Young people don't give a shit about that. They don't. Bernie did really well among black voters under 40. The Latino community he was very strong in. And he always polled very high among independent voters. So, but I don't have strong enthusiasm about Michelle Obama running, if that answers your question. So, and honestly, I don't want to minimize the threat of Trump, but I cannot lie. I'm not super excited about this election. I don't even really have too much excitement about covering it because it's kind of just like Groundhog's Day. It's like it between Hillary in 2016 and Biden in 2020 and now Harris in 2024. It's all the same shit. Most important election of our lifetime. We got to save democracy. Fascism's on the ballot. Yada yada yada. And to those watching, they say, "Well, Jordan, it was true then, and it's true now." Well, if you've seen what I've seen, it kind of rings hollow that like fascism can come. I think we already have a lot of fascism in America. It's just not covered, and it's kind of normalized. I think it's kind of fascist to poison a whole fucking community, cover it up, and then leave them to slowly die while putting out bullshit PR that it's all fixed. I think that's kind of fascist. I think it's kind of fascist to ram oil pipelines through Native American reservations. I think it's kind of fascist to build a militarized police compound in a public forest in Atlanta and kill protesters, which has happened. So, yeah. Anything else?
No, nothing so far.
Come on, people.
You want to talk about the independent media?
Sure. Independent media. It's still early times, but I'm really hoping that as many folks I don't expect, mainstream media outlets to have me on in the book, but I really, really hope the independent media will come through because this book is not really, yes, it's about Flint and the cover-up, but I think it's more about our toxic government. I think the book really meticulously, I hope, lays out how corrupt and toxic our government is, from the federal to the state to the local level. Because you cannot, and the media, and how toxic the media is. Because the book exposes, in particular, an outlet in Flint that killed a story on the Legionnaires outbreak, which was the deadly waterborne bacteria that killed a shit ton of people in Flint. An outlet in Flint had that story in October 2014. So we're talking 10 years ago. They had the story. They had documents showing that a local hospital had a Legionnaires outbreak, that a local hospital was enhancing their cleaning procedures in their water system because they had a Legionnaires outbreak. And mind you, of the context of this time, Flint residents were showing up to City Hall with jugs of brown water. Residents were showing up. Children were showing their rashes. And a hospital had a outbreak of a bacterial waterborne disease. People were dying of this bacterial waterborne disease. The dots were there to be connected. And a reporter at a local outlet in Flint had documentation that there was an outbreak at a local hospital. And suddenly, the outlet just decided not to run the story. I could never prove the reason why. I put in my book speculation because prosecutors believe, they couldn't prove it, but prosecutors believe that the Snyder administration, somebody from the Snyder administration called the outlet and pressured them to kill the story. But the bottom line is an outlet had the story, and if they would have published it in October 2014, it could have literally ended the crisis right then and there. 6 months after. How much longer did it take? It took 16 more months for this to be notified to the public. Imagine if a media outlet that had documents showing that a local hospital had this outlet, a local media outlet had the documents. It would have been public. There is a massive outbreak, one of the worst in American history, by the way, it came out, of this deadly waterborne bacteria. Residents would have stopped drinking and bathing in the water. The Snyder administration would have been, in my view, forced to switch Flint off of the Flint River because it later came out that the outbreak came from the Flint River switch. And how many more people would have not died because they stopped drinking the water 6 months after the water switch rather than 18 months after? How many more people, it's not just the deaths, how many more people would have not gotten permanent damage? Because there's a difference between drinking and bathing in this for 6 months versus a year and a half. You'll find out which media outlet. And interestingly enough, I have reached out to this media outlet, I don't know, at least 5 or 6 times over the years, asking them, why did you kill the story? They wouldn't respond to me. Well, maybe they'll have to explain it now.
Maybe we should pay them a visit.
Yeah, so that's the power of media. A media outlet could have stopped this. If that was published in October 2014, the alarm bells would have rung. Other media would have been forced to cover it. The national media, I believe, would have covered it. And more importantly, Flint residents would have been made aware. There's like a fucking deadly bacteria in our water. We're stopping. Yeah. So, but getting back to independent media, you know, I've obviously had words about independent media over the years, but I just hope, listen, everybody talks the talk, everybody in independent media, from the bigger channels to lower channels. And by the way, we're less than 2,000 subscribers from 200,000. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. But at the end of the day, if you are not going, there are very few living, breathing, on the ground, investigative journalists in America. I might be able to name 10 on my 10. Very few independent. Abby Martin is one of them. Greg Palast is another. He's done great reporting on voter election fraud, voter suppression. There's very few I could think of. There's investigative reporters, but I'm talking about people that actually travel and go out to places and like dig and find out where the bodies are buried. You know, there's just very few. I'm not minimizing investigative reporters that break news without traveling. You know, I think Ryan Grimm does amazing work. David Sirota, some folks at The Intercept. Akela Lacey, Jeremy Scahill. Obviously, they have their new site, Drop Site News. But there's just very few, like, old school investigative journalists. So when the very few old school investigative journalists break big stories or have a book that I believe, and you could tell me if you disagree once you read it, really exposes one of the worst I believe this makes Watergate look like nothing. It makes Watergate look like child's play. And all the old fogies, you know, we have some watching, but all like the old liberal fogies that like love watching CNN, MSNBC, they consider Watergate like the biggest cover-up ever. This makes Watergate look like a fucking walk in the park. This is the real Watergate. Literally, Watergate. And by the way, I pushed the publisher to name the book The Real Watergate, but they shot that down. So to me, if outlets are not going to spotlight like the few original independent investigative journalists, if you're not going to lift that up, even if it's not me, like for example, the Young Turks, obviously they're not fond of me. I'm not so fond of them for reasons we all know about. Okay. Well, even if the Young Turks doesn't want to have me on, that's fine. Because honestly, this is not about me. I don't do this to like win awards. If I wanted to climb a ladder or win awards, I would have taken corporate jobs that were offered to me. Because how to climb a ladder or like raise your Twitter following or win a Pulitzer is not by having an independent YouTube channel on YouTube. That's not how you do it. It's by working for the New York Times, Washington Post, or a lot of these propaganda outlets. But the bottom line is, if bigger independent outlets are not going to lift up major bombshell investigative cover-ups, then what is the purpose of them? Seriously. So I implore the Young Turks. I would implore, I wish, Joe Rogan.
I mean, this should be all sides of the media.
All sides, right wing too. Yeah. I've reached out to Tim Pool. Honestly, Tim Pool is not someone I'd want to have a beer with. Right. I've reached out to him to have me on. No response. I've reached out to the Breakfast Club, who I like. And they're one of the top, black media in the country. They confirmed that they received my email but have not responded. We've reached out to Joe Rogan several times. No response. Who else? I mean, we've reached out to so many people. I've reached out to Fox News. No response. So I'm not I'll only go on left. I'll go on any fucking show in America right now, in the world, to get this truth out, whether it's a right winger, a left winger, no labels. But I'm hoping, even if like a show like the Young Turks will not have me on for whatever reason, that at least cover the revelations in the book. Even if you're not pushing your audience to buy the book, fine. But just cover the new bombshells that come out in the book. And I had poor Colin, our producer, he made 120 graphics for me of parts of the book so we could spoon feed it to the media. So we could just send them graphics with parts of the book. So they don't even have to read the book if they don't want to. So I'm hoping, whether it's the Young Turks, I've reached out to David Pakman's show. I don't have his personal contact, but I've reached out to the info at David Pakman 2 or 3 times. Because he's got a massive audience. I'd consider him a little bit more liberal than I, but this isn't really about like whether we agree on all things, whether you say somebody's liberal or conservative. This is about Flint. This is about clean water. This is about corrupt government. This is about a massive government cover-up. So I've reached out to David Pakman's show. No response. I will say Breaking Points is having me on tomorrow. So thank you to Crystal and Sagar.
Crystal, Kyle, and Friends?
No, that's Crystal and Sagar's show.
Okay, that's post-Flash-X. If you have any plans to go on Crystal, Kyle, and
I've reached out to Crystal about that. I haven't heard back specifically about that show, but they're having me on Breaking Points. So hopefully. Katie Halper has told me she'll have me on in a few weeks, so I appreciate that. Who else? Brianna Joy Gray has said she'll have me on. she just had me on about something else, but she said she'll have me on. Mike from the Humanist Report said he'd have me on his Twitch show. He said he'd have me on his Twitch show, not his YouTube show, but his Twitch show. I've reached out to David Dole of the Rational National, haven't heard back. I've reached out to Tim Black. He said he would do a promo for me. For whatever reason, didn't want to have me on as a guest, but said he'd do a promo for me, which I appreciate. Who else? I'm trying to remember other shows. What other shows are there? Oh, we've reached out to all the Michigan outlets. Nope. Because they've been in on the cover-up. Who else? I'm trying to think. I've pretty much reached out to every independent channel that I could think of. And I'm willing to go on any channel. And even if they won't have me on for whatever reason, I will gladly send you graphics with major bombshells and cover it. Because, by the way, this is not, and I think the book makes clear, this is not like the media has framed this as some tragedy that happened in the past but is over. This is an active disaster. I don't like the word crisis because people are numb. This is a fucking disaster. Cancer is through the roof in Flint. Certain types of cancer are up 300 to 500% compared to before the water switch. 300 to 500%. There's people in Flint still posting on social media brown water coming out of their taps. 10 years later. People have not received one dime of money from the settlement, which was already too low. And all criminal charges have been dropped. Let me repeat. All criminal charges have been dropped and the investigation is over. And I believe, based on my book, and I believe, based on documents that the current Democratic Attorney General of Flint are hiding from the public and will not give me, I believe if those documents were released, there is a chance for new charges based on financial fraud. And I think that's why she's not handing them over. Because they want this over and they don't want new charges because some of these charges could be made against Wall Street banks. Wall Street banks. Specifically, J.P. Morgan and Wells Fargo. Wait till you read the book.
Okay, let's see. We got some super chats. All right, Truth Bearer, $5. Do you think Democrats can maintain this existential threat playbook for VBNW? What's that?
VB what?
VBNW. Another decade plus, even beyond Bush-Trump, or does it have shelf life? Do you know what VBNW is?
I don't know what VBNW is, so you'll have to spell that out for me, but I do know what you're trying to ask. Honestly, no, I don't. Because the truth is, the majority of people in America, even if they believed that we did live in a democracy, which I think most people don't really think about it. Most people don't watch The West Wing. Most people are not have grandiose, fluffy visions. Oh, we're a grand democracy and a shining city on a hill. Most people are fucking just fed up. And most people, their number one issue is gas in the car, food on the table, how many jobs they have to work. Are they bankrupting themselves or their children with these insane college student loans? Rent, groceries, to go to the grocery store, it's now $200 when it used to be, $75 to $100. So that's most people's top issue. It's not, so they believe even if we do have a democracy, it ain't working for me. And at the end of the day, it's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. If you keep saying, oh, if this guy gets elected, the house is going to burn, and then the house doesn't burn, I'm not saying Trump's term, there wasn't a lot of, horrible things. And I'm not saying a second term, there would be a lot of horrible things. But for most people, Trump's term, nothing dramatically changed for most people. For some classes of people, yes. So I don't think you could keep every 4 years saying hey, this is the most important election of our lifetime and you got to hold your nose. Because what's the difference? Even if it's not Trump, all right, in 4 years it will be J.D. Vance. On policy, he might be even more extreme than Trump. On policy, I don't know, like Ron DeSantis might be even more extreme than Trump. On policy, Tom Cotton, the senator from Arkansas, he might be even more extreme than Trump. Not verbally, but actual policy. So just every 4 years, are you going to keep saying, it doesn't matter that the Democratic candidate isn't going to actually change anything? It's just lesser of two evils. I don't think people, particularly younger people, really think that way. So no, I don't think that playbook will work.
Tracy G, $5. Trump always says he cut regulations like it's a good thing. Do normies not understand what that really means?
I don't know what you mean by normies, but most people, again, who aren't diehard into politics, they're not like really looking so far underneath the hood of the car. So to them, they just remember prices were lower under Trump. Now, that's not because Trump did anything to keep prices lower. It's because for most of Trump's term, there wasn't a worldwide deadly pandemic. And remember, prices started going up in 2020 under Trump. So in fairness to Biden, inflation is not 100% Biden's fault. And it's not like Trump was better at keeping prices lower than Biden is. There was a pandemic. Now, there were things Biden could have done to lower prices that he did not do. And I've covered this over and over again. Biden, sent sternly worded letters to, fossil fuel companies and others to please, lower prices. They wiped their ass with your letters. He could have used the levers of government to pressure them, including, all right, you're not going to lower prices. We're going to pull the $15 billion in free subsidies we give you, speaking to the oil and the fossil fuel industry. I think that would have done something. He wasn't going to do that because they're some of the biggest donors in America, and Wall Street banks are heavily invested in the fossil fuel industry. But I think most people who aren't diehard into politics just remember under Trump, well, prices were lower, and they just ascribe that to Trump, even though it's not that simple and it's not something Trump did. But no, I don't think most people are thinking about like, oh, well, Trump deregulated and that's bad. I just think they say gas was lower, food prices were lower. So even though I don't like Trump and he's kind of crazy and said things I don't like, well, he'll lower prices. Even though I don't think that's the case, because I don't think Trump is going to do anything that hardcore or stern to force business leaders to lower prices. He doesn't care about the average person either. So, yeah. So, as a reminder to those who came late, we're going to Dearborn now. We're going to do some interviews with people that were involved with the uncommitted movement, Arab Americans in Dearborn, which is the largest city in America, the largest population of Arab Americans in a city in America. We're speaking with folks that were involved with the uncommitted, which was to vote uncommitted rather than for Biden during the Democratic primary. We're speaking with folks that were involved with the abandoned Biden movement, which is kind of similar to uncommitted. So we want to talk to them, hear their stories, because a lot of them tragically have lost family in Gaza during this genocide, and also just up close on the ground, kind of get the pulse. Are they more committed now that it's Kamala Harris? Are they still not committed to voting Democrat? Because Dearborn, and there are also decent amount of Arab Americans that live in Detroit. If enough of them don't come out, that could give Michigan to Trump. And most political experts and pollsters believe Harris has to win those three Great Lakes states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, if they're going to win. If Trump wins any one of those three, it's a lot harder. There's not as many electoral paths to 270 electoral college votes. So we're going to Dearborn first. Then we're going to Flint. My book is out Tuesday. It will be in most major bookstores on Tuesday. If you prefer to order online, you could order from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, others. It will also be out. There will be an audio version. I'll get the details on that, I think on Audible and other places. And I'll be doing a book event Tuesday night in Flint at Comma Bookstore at 7:30. Oh, no, 7 o'clock Eastern. We'll be live streaming that. So for those of you that can't make it, we'll be live streaming it on the channel. Really excited. You might not know her, but Kayla Rubel, she's pretty much one of the only other journalists in America, other than me, Charlie LaDuff, and Kayla, have really stayed on the Flint water crisis and cover-up. So she's been investigating this for years. She was part of a duo that broke a story on the Flint cover-up for PBS. She was part of a reporting duo that there was a documentary on PBS thanks to their work. So she'll be interviewing me at the bookstore in Flint. I'm also doing an interview Tuesday morning at a local Flint outlet, 810 Media. So I'll be live with them at 9 a.m. On their channel on Facebook and YouTube, 810 Media. So they'll be interviewing me. I'm going on Roland Martin's show, Roland Martin Uncensored, Monday night at 6:45 Eastern. So definitely check me out there about the book. Tomorrow night, yeah. I'm waiting to hear back from Tom Hartman's show. They've expressed interest. Tom Hartman is on YouTube and Sirius Radio. And then Wednesday we'll be in Cleveland at the Loganberry's bookstore where Nina Turner is graciously interviewing me. So that's exciting. And then Thursday we'll be in East Palestine, follow-up reporting on mini Chernobyl. That's another cover-up. People are sick. I got sick last time I'm there. We'll technically be in Darlington, Pennsylvania, which is right over the border in Pennsylvania, because we'll be doing interviews out of an office we secured. But people are sick. The chemicals, you could still smell it. And basically the EPA and the government are doing the same thing they did in the case of Flint, saying that everything's fine. Our testing shows everything's fine. Meanwhile, people are having strokes, seizures, peeing blood, pooping blood, bloody noses, and all sorts of terrible symptoms. So we're going to stay on that. So we're mixing this reporting trip both with, obviously the book coming out, but other reporting. And who knows? If shit breaks, we'll cover stuff as it comes. So, but if you can, please support this reporting with a donation. It's very expensive to do this kind of work. StatusCoup.com/donate. And if you're not a Status Coup member, that's the best way of supporting us. StatusCoup.com/join.
Our viewers are actually going up.
Our what?
Our viewers are going up. The number of viewers.
Oh, good. Yeah. Good.
Now they're going up.
Good. So, that's the deal. I should say my mother is watching my daughter right now. So if my mother is watching, my mother told me she basically unsubscribed to my channel because she doesn't agree with my views on Israel, Gaza, and doesn't agree with us calling it a genocide. So she doesn't watch my channel anymore. So mother, if you're watching, I think you should put your, shall we say, interesting views aside and watch my channel to support your boy and his book. I'm just kidding. My mom has been very supportive of the book. She actually got me on the 4th of July. You were there. She got me a beautiful cake.
Let me see, I got a picture of that.
She got me a beautiful cake, and she got it custom designed to be the book cover. Yeah. It was, I didn't even want to eat it. I just wanted to freeze it because it literally was the book cover. And she's been very supportive of the book. So she's watching my daughter right now with my wife. So props to Mama Chariton, even though I don't agree with you politically on anything. But she's supporting the book. My father's calling me 25 times. Jordan, how do I send the book through email? I need a copy to give to this person, that person. So my family's been very supportive. What else? I just wish independent media. Can't we get all independent media to come together to cover this? I'll go on any show. And it's not about me. I'm not going to, it's very unlikely this book is going to become a New York Times bestseller. I know you might say, well, Jordan, don't undersell yourself. I go in with low expectations, so I'd be pleasantly surprised but not disappointed. It's very unlikely. And by the way, here's a secret you might not know. A lot of these New York Times bestsellers become that way artificially. So like when a Fox News anchor or an MSNBC anchor publish a book, when Rachel Maddow publishes a book, guess what? MSNBC buys thousands of copies. Fox buys thousands of copies. And then suddenly the book is rising on all the book lists, on the Amazon list and all this. A lot of it's artificial, folks. Unfortunately, I don't have a corporate parent company to buy thousands. Actually, I should have just bought a shit ton from Status Coup. But I don't want to spend your money that way because you guys are funding Status Coup.
Nothing is authentic anymore.
No,
it's
nothing.
Fucking insane.
Nothing. I'm not saying Rachel Maddow couldn't have had a bestseller on her own. There's a lot of people who like Rachel Maddow, whatever. But a lot of it is artificial, and you have big corporate parents. You know, Elon Musk, for example, if he publishes a book, you don't think there's a shit ton of Teslas not buying up a shit ton of those books? So anyway, but to help get the word out about this book, this is an all hands on deck thing. I need all independent media, whether you like me, whether you don't like me, whether you care, whether you don't, whether you think that this will get a lot of views for you or not. Let's just take a break from all that and say we agree on one thing, that one of the biggest government cover-ups of the 21st century, hell, ever, it's still ongoing. It's still being covered up. People are still getting toxic water, and I don't give a fuck what the EPA says. I don't give a fuck. I just talked to a source of mine from Flint. She told me she's going door to door because literally they are still trying to identify houses that have not had their lead lines replaced. 10 years ago, 10 years later, they have not replaced all of those damaged lead service lines. And she is literally meeting people who are still have bacterial rashes all over their bodies 10 years later. The rashes are not coming from the weather, they're coming from the water. So this is still very much a crisis. And by the way, it's not just Flint. I could tell you if you're watching in Jackson, Mississippi, they still got fucked up water. If you're watching in East Chicago, Indiana, East Palestine, Ohio, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania has had problems with the water. Washington, D.C. has had problems with the water. Hell, a few weeks ago, Washington, D.C. issued a boil water alert, which, by the way, you might not know. If you get a boil water alert, if there's lead in the water and they tell you to boil the water, you're just intensifying the concentration of lead when you boil the water if there's lead in the water. I mean, there's water issues in North Carolina. Hell, there's water issues. You want to talk about Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania? Well, there's a town in Pennsylvania, I think it's called Dimmock, that has a water crisis, and they confronted Governor Shapiro at an event because he still hasn't came through on his promises to fix their water. I mean, Denmark, South Carolina has a water crisis. I mean, there's Native American reservations that haven't had clean water ever. To me, this is one of the biggest stories in America. In the leader of the free world and the wealthiest country on earth, we got some of the worst fucking water known to man.
This whole country's poisoned.
Yeah.
It's a corporate playground.
And it's not just the water. We got air pollution in places, soil, forget it. But it doesn't rate, I'm told. I'm told, well, this isn't a sexy story. It won't do well in the ratings, or like, oh, it doesn't do well in the algorithm. Well, maybe there's something to be said for just doing the right fucking thing. Yeah. Just cover the right fucking thing. And by the way, I think people do care about government corruption. I think people are into that content. I've seen it. So maybe just take a break from worrying about your algorithm for a minute and cover this, even if you don't want to have me on. And that's also a challenge to the right wing. I said to my father, I don't really think Fox News or any of these right-wing channels want to have me on because this book kind of exposes that a Republican governor poisoned his constituents and then covered it up. I don't really think they want to highlight that. They only want to cover it if it's a Democrat, which, by the way, there is part of this story is Democrats helping to cover it up. But the original sin was a Republican governor. So let's not forget that. What else we got, Johnny boy?
Daspo's Flesh wants to know, will Lou, Ron, and Tina return as regulars?
Daspo's Flesh, do you have a money tree to pay for those folks? You got a money tree? First of all, Lewis, has not been as prevalent. Not because Lewis, who's done great reporting for us in East Palestine, he's kind of, I don't want to say left completely, but he's not on anymore. Not because there was any issue, but because he, I guess, started his own company or something like that. I don't really know the full details, but he started his own production company, and it started taking up a lot more. Trust me, I basically offered Lewis, I'll find the money and bring you on full time. I'll find money somewhere, even if I have to cut my pay. And he, for whatever his reasons, and maybe they were financial, but he needed more money. So he is doing his own thing. He's also, I don't want to speak for him, but he might be moving abroad because his partner, I guess, got a research job in Germany, I think it was, he told me. So he might be moving abroad. So Lewis, it's his choice. I'm not attacking him. I love Lewis, but it's been his choice not to be on Status Coup for, not because there's a beef, but for, to pursue other things. Ron and Tina, listen, it's just simple. I don't have the money. If I had the money to pay them to do weekly shows, I would, but we don't. And unfortunately, it's not the kind of thing that, like Tina, for example, Tina, to me, is one of the best reporters in America on a very specific topic, which is extremism, neo-Nazis, right-wing militia groups, like QAnon, that kind of stuff. But her live streams, unfortunately, just, it wasn't, whether it's the algorithm or other reasons, we weren't really getting a lot of viewers. I'm fine covering certain things, even if we're not going to get a lot of viewers, but you can't, as a business, you can't pay people X amount of money per month if you're losing money on it. And we were losing money because we weren't really growing. Not because she was doing anything wrong. She was great. But I just couldn't afford, between her and Ron, it was expensive per month, and we weren't growing enough to afford it. And they understood, and Ron's been great. He's filled in at times, which we obviously pay him for. So ideally, if we grew or got like a progressive investor or progressive donor, I would love to have Ron and Tina every week. I'd love to have people every day. But, I can't print money like the federal government. So, and obviously I'm not going to ask people to host indefinitely for free. So that's basically the answer. We could only grow as far as you all take us. What else?
Okay. Somebody mentioned Lee Camp. Did you speak to him?
No, I didn't speak with Lee. Not a bad idea. I'll reach out. I didn't remember what show he was doing now. Obviously RT and that got thrown off.
Right.
So, yeah.
I'm looking for more comments.
Yeah, I'll go on pretty much any show. Even those I'm, not particular fond of, because at the end of the day, like, people should put their egos aside or whatever motivations they have. To me, this story goes well beyond, like, politics. I think from progressives to conservatives to libertarians to communists, we all need water. All of us. You can't really go that far without clean, drinkable water. You'll die. So.
What about RBN? Somebody said RBN? Travers?
Would I go on with them? Yeah, I'd go on with them. I mean, yeah, I'd go on with them.
That's pretty much it. We got 144 people watching.
All right. Not bad for a Sunday afternoon when YouTube's squeezing you. Yep. And I'm just very excited because, like, we've been promoting the book, but I actually I'm just, like, ready to get into the actual details, Right. I want to do shows, like, on the actual details, but obviously I wasn't going to, like, spill all the details before the book comes out. Yeah. And also, like, let's be clear, if the book does well, that means Status Coup does well. Yes, technically, like, the book proceeds would go to me, but I've put my own money into Status Coup, and I don't have a ton of money. So if the book does well, that also will help Status Coup. I mean, if this book does stupid well and becomes a New York Times bestseller, and all of a sudden I'm making money, I will cut my pay so we could afford other things. But that's been hard. By the way, I want to also point out, if you haven't watched the documentary, you have to watch the documentary too. The documentary isn't exclusively focused on the cover-up, but the documentary, I think, is a really good companion to the book. So if you haven't seen our documentary that John shot and Ty Bayliss put together, we've already won certain categories at the World Film Festival. That documentary was shot just a few months ago in March. So go to flintfatigue.com, check out the documentary. I'm biased, but I think it's damn good. I think it's a lot better than most of the junk you see every day on Netflix. So, flintfatigue.com for sure. But, yeah, I'm excited. And, most importantly, honestly, this might sound kind of cheesy. To me, one of the most frustrating things of all of this Flint coverage and having the media bury these stories, to me, one of the most frustrating things, I would venture to guess 95% of Flint residents don't know 90% of the details in this book. Wow. Let me repeat. I believe 95% of Flint residents don't know the majority of the details of what happened to them, because the media in Michigan and Flint told a sanitized story, a sanitized narrative, and most of the information in this book they've never seen because the local media didn't pick it up. The local ABC, NBC, CBS, where people get their news at night, never picked up my reporting. The national media never picked it up. So how would they know? Most of them don't know Status Coup. A lot of them are poor. A lot of them are working multiple jobs. A lot of them don't watch the news, So I want this to spread in Flint, because you cannot, I understand in communities like Flint, people, it's hard to keep fighting. It's hard to keep protesting after 10 years and nothing's changing. We went from, in the early days of this, you had hundreds of people out protesting, to now you're lucky if you could get 20. I get it. I wasn't poisoned and I'm not there, so I'm not criticizing them. But I just want as many people in Flint to get the truth and the details, because you can't get people active to take action and demand change now, demand accountability now, if they don't know the full details of what was done to them. And I think that the people in East Palestine and other communities need to see how this happened and how this cover-up happened, because a lot of the cover-up in Flint is literally playing out right now in a similar fashion. It's just different government officials doing the same thing and different media outlets doing the same thing. It's very, very similar, the cover-up in Flint and the cover-up in East Palestine and the cover-up in Kalamazoo and the cover-up in Jackson. It's very similar. It's the same playbook. The EPA or the state does bullshit testing. They manipulate the testing, or they cherry pick the testing. They claim the water's fine or the air's fine, or we're not finding chemicals, or, oh, the brown water, don't worry about that. That's just optics. It's not a health problem. And then the media just regurgitates that. Because believe it or not, journalists, a lot of them just believe what government officials tell them. And I'm not a kook like John. I'm not a conspiracy theorist like John. I'm not saying never believe the government. You should hear some of the shit he says. I'm not saying the government always lies to you, but I come from a basic perspective of I don't automatically trust what the government tells me. Doesn't mean they're lying, but I don't automatically trust what the government tells me. I have questions, if that makes sense. So, anyway, that's the deal.
Somebody also mentioned... Okay, hold on. Das Post Flesh. In France / Germany, we have Arte, A-R-T-E, as part of public media. They sometimes air documentaries of topics that get buried in mainstream. Have you asked them?
We've reached out to foreign media, yes. I don't know that's one specifically, but yes. And by the way, I am praying, Michael Moore, Michael Moore, if you're out there, please, I've sent you the book, and I think I'll get on his podcast at some point. Oh, if somebody could do a documentary on this cover-up, oh my God, I don't even care if I'm in it. I don't even care if I'm a part of it. I'd like to be, but this book, if you can't make a fucking movie out of this book, if you can't make a documentary out of this book, if you can't make a docu-series out of this book, hell, if you can't make a fucking museum out of this book, and this has been told to me by people who have had dealings, this book is some mafia-level shit. This book and this story has some mafia-level shit that The Sopranos could not write. We're talking payoffs. We're talking destruction of evidence. We're talking people's brakes being cut while they're driving. We're talking water bottles from Flint residents with messages for the governor being burned, just being tossed into a burn pit. I didn't even put that in the book, but I have a story on that. I mean, we're talking residents being threatened by government officials. We're talking phones being destroyed with evidence on them. We're talking witness tampering. I mean, there's a lot of fucking shit. We're talking, yes, I'll go there, Flint plant workers mysteriously dying after they testify. I don't have evidence that that person was killed, but a lot of people believe that a certain Flint plant worker and his death was not natural. I make clear in the book, I don't have evidence, but I do say that a lot of Flint residents always question the death of a plant worker who happened to die of a drug overdose after he testified to prosecutors. There's just a lot of shit in here. Like, honestly, it's hard to describe, but sometimes, like, when I was writing the book, I couldn't believe what I was writing. Not because, like, I don't trust my sources, but, like, it's just like, holy shit. Like, I found out all this stuff, and it's, like, crazy. It's just crazy that this kind of shit could just happen kind of out in the open. And why do government officials do this out in the open? If they believe that they're not going to be questioned, if they believe that we don't have a media that's actually going to investigate it, and if they believe that the justice system, because they're rich and they're white, they'll get off. Right. Yep. So I hope there's a movie, because obviously movies throughout history, I hope there's a movie or a documentary, because obviously movies and documentaries throughout history have been more effective than books. Right. It's not to say a book, and a lot of books have been made into movies and TV shows and all that. So, yeah, that's my hope for sure. All right, we'll wind down in a few minutes if we don't get any more super chats or anything like that. But last call for questions, comments, concerns. From what I know, we've had like 700 or so pre-orders of the book, which is really, I'm told, is pretty good. I'm hoping that this book sells out. I really am. I really am. And I'm hoping what you could do for me, if you're a fan or a viewer, tell people in your life, even if they're not into politics, even if they're like just into like, you know, the Kardashians or stupid shit, spread the word like, you got to read this. Like, this shit is crazy. Because I do believe with stuff like this, word of mouth also makes a difference.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. We got another one. Bradley, $5. Reach out to Jackson Hinkle. He seems like a guy that would want to help you expose the corruption that is the United Corporations of America. Jackson Hinkle.
That's where I put my foot down. No, I'm not going on Jackson's show. So I guess I lied that I'll go on any show. I'm not going on his show. No.
Even if he says yes.
No. I will not go on Jackson Hinkle's show. Full stop. And if you criticize me, that's fine.
People want to know, is it going to be your voice doing the audio?
Unfortunately not. Unfortunately not. To be honest, I had to really push the publisher to make sure there was an audio version. That took a few months. And then finally, when we got an audio version, I don't really know how it works, but they had to license it separately with a company, and that company has its own narrators. I got to approve who would be the narrator. They kept sending me like British options to be Aaron Brockovich's voice, because Aaron Brockovich writes the forward. No offense to British people, but like, who's gonna listen and think Aaron Brockovich when it's a British woman? But the guy's voice who narrates me is pretty good. However, maybe one day, if there's enough interest, we could do a series on YouTube where I narrate. A Status Coup book club with my book. So no, it's not my voice. I did want it to be my voice, but at a certain point, like, you got to pick and choose your battles, and I was just happy that I finally got a version that will be audio. Because a lot of people, I thought it was like some, but I didn't know. Like, there's like maybe 30-40% of people won't read but will listen, right, including my brother. My younger brother, who doesn't care about anything, is like, yeah, I don't read. I'm like, oh, that's...
Yeah, people listen to podcasts all the time while they're driving.
Right.
Stuff like that.
He's like, I'll listen to it when I'm running.
Right.
I'm like, you can't read a book that your brother wrote? He's like, no. So, yeah.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned Tom Killian, who's been exposing the Oshawa in Wisconsin. Did you know about that? Tom Killian?
I know the beer Killians.
He's been exposing something in Wisconsin.
Anytime you guys got a tip, email us, info@statuscoup.com, or you could email me, Jordan Chariton, @statuscoup.com. If you got an environmental tip, we try to cover as much as we can, whether it's environmental, government corruption, you name it. So, but I'm not aware of what you're talking about.
What about Russell Brand?
I'd go on Russell Brand's show. Again, probably, I'll leave it at that. I'd go on Russell Brand's show. There's certain people that I cannot with a good conscience. I just think they're bad people. So I don't feel comfortable.
Okay.
But there's very few people I would emphatically say no. But I go on Russell Brand's show. Part of the problem is, like, a lot of these people genuinely, I don't want to simplify it to this, but a lot of them just don't give a fuck. A lot of them don't cover certain things unless it's like cancel culture and wokeness and like conspiracy theories. But if it's about like a poor black community being poisoned, like, oh, that's too bad. But it doesn't like spike their content curiosity, which I don't really understand. I don't understand that, because
a lot of people are in it for the grift.
A lot of people are in it for the grift. That's true. But yeah, if you got suggestions, I'll go on. I won't say any show, but most shows I would go on for sure, including the Young Turks, by the way. So if you want to start the campaign to get Jank and his massive ego to put it aside, even if they don't want to have me on, they could just cover the book. That's fine with me too. So.
Yeah, I think the mentioning of your name will.
They don't have to mention my name. They don't have to mention my name. They could just say this new book written by Anonymous. So, yeah.
Jordan needs to host a radio show. I think you tried that, right?
I actually had a meeting with somebody from Sirius Radio about actually making their Sirius Progress, which is supposed to be their progressive channel, about making it actually progressive, because right now it's just like MSNBC on the radio. That didn't work out. Let's just say they were not interested in a.
I think you were too progressive for them.
No, it's just they have their. There's Team Red radio and there's Team Blue radio, but I'm Team Green. That they're all corrupt. But I would love to do a daily radio show. I could go for hours on the radio, hours, for sure. So if you want to pitch me, go ahead. All right. Anybody else before we wrap up?
No, that's pretty much it. Alex Jones. Would you go on Alex Jones' show?
No. No. I would not go on Alex Jones' show.
Does he even have a show anymore?
Somewhere. And you might say, well, Jordan, if you're saying you want to get this out to the most people, right, but I do want to get this out to the most people, but it's kind of like, could I in good conscience go sit on a show with somebody who, for profit, has claimed that kids who were massacred in a school were actors, and the parents of the kids who were massacred in schools were actors. I can't in good conscience, tie with that person.
So did the frogs poison the water?
Yeah, did the frogs poison the water? Yeah. I just can't. I can't. Sorry. If it was somebody else from InfoWars interviewing me, maybe I would, but not Alex Jones, no.
Okay. I don't see anything else. I don't know if you want to...
And by the way, if you don't know, Jackson Hinkle, I believe, for a while was broadcasting on that total anti-Semite, white supremacist. What's his name? Why am I forgetting? The guy who dined with Trump? Nick Fuentes. Yeah, Hinkle was on Nick Fuentes' little streaming channel. So I'm kind of amongst other very problematic things with Jackson Hinkle, I'm not going to go on somebody palling around with somebody who just says kill all the Jews, basically. Yeah, no, not for me. All right. We might be live again, kind of impromptu at some point tomorrow. Don't know, but definitely make sure you're signed up for our Substack, which you could sign up for free, because we'll have emails going out from our Substack with alerts as we're on the ground, things happening, reminders of our book events, if I'm being interviewed by somebody. But I beg all of you to get on social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, hound all your hosts, whether they're leftists, right-wingers, about the book, to have me on or just cover it, because this really is all hands on deck. And any interview, even if it's a smaller channel or a bigger channel. But just know, I'm ready to burn bridges. I'm ready to burn some fucking bridges. So if you're an independent outlet and you're giving me bullshit that you're not going to have me on for stupid ass fucking reasons, I'm going to call you out. I don't even care if I like you. I'm going to call you out, because there is zero reason to either not have me on or to cover the book in a segment. For example, Farron from Ring of Fire, friend of the show, Ring of Fire, I believe, has 1 million subscribers. Unfortunately, his studio down in Florida got flooded because of a hurricane. So that's where he went to have guests. So he can't have me on, but he said he'll do a segment on the book. So that's good. Okay, you can't have me on because of that. That's fine. But he's still willing to do a segment on the book. And I told him I'm going to send him, parts of the book and yada, yada. So there are legitimate reasons. But if you don't want to do an interview on it, you could at least cover some of the bombshells. I hope and pray Kyle on his channel will cover some of it. So I'm just hoping and praying, because we need as many people as possible to buy this book. And we need as many people as possible to kick and scream. We need to unnormalize the poisoning of an American community, and we need to shift the mental paradigm and make it so this happened 10 minutes ago, not 10 years ago. Make it so it happened 10 days ago, not 10 years ago. Because that's how you counter the corporate media propaganda, by making it urgent again, which is hard. It's hard to get shit that the media and the politicians have gaslit and lied about to make it seem like it's a tragedy from the past. It's a disaster in the present. Thank you for watching.
Hold on, somebody wants to know where the bookstore is in Flint.
Comma Bookstore. I don't know the address. I don't know the address off the top of my head.
Comma Bookstore.
But if you Google it, COMMA Bookstore, and we'll be putting out information on our Substack with the address and all that.
And let people know when you get the book Tuesday, make sure you take a picture, share it on Twitter, tag Status Coup. If you're on Instagram,
use the hashtag We the Poisoned.
Yeah.
Use the hashtag We the Poisoned. I know X and Twitter has become a right-wing cesspool. I don't know if Elon will allow my book to trend, but if as many people as possible write something on the book or post parts of the book, hashtag We the Poison, that would be really, really helpful. Yeah. And the Cleveland event will be at Loganberry's bookstore. Don't know the address off the top of my head, but if you Google Loganberry's, and Nina Turner will be interviewing me, which is awesome. We're also going to be doing a book event in September in D.C. Crystal Ball will be interviewing me September 8th. So that's awesome. And I'm still trying to push for events with Michael Moore and some others. So we'll see. Erin, unfortunately, is out of the country right now, so she couldn't do it. Yeah. But Erin wrote the foreword, so I can't really complain. Yeah. You know, can't ask for too much. Yeah. And by the way, if anybody knows this Jelly Roll guy, you know this country music singer, Jelly Roll, who's all the buzz right now? I'm not down with the culture, so I don't know much about him, but CBS just did a segment on him, and he's very popular. Apparently, he was just made like an honorary sheriff in Flint. I don't know why, but I'm trying to figure out a contact for him, because if he could tweet out or say something about the book, that would be huge. Mark Ruffalo, who played a character in Dark Waters, which is about water contamination. Would love for him to tweet something out. I know Susan Sarandon will, but as many of the big celebrities as possible. We got to get it. All of them. One of them. Doesn't matter. We're pushing. So thank you for watching. Again, we're going to Dearborn, where we're going to be interviewing Arab Americans about the ongoing genocide in Gaza, as well as the election. And then we'll be in Flint. Some things will be live, some things will be recorded. So make sure you subscribe to our Substack. That's statuscoup.substack.com, which you could subscribe for free, and you'll get emails when we're going live and for other updates. Have a good day.